So you've clicked this video. You're in one of two camps. Either you've never watched my channel before and you're a med student thinking of leaving medicine, in which case you're in the right place. Or you're a previous subscriber of Building Beautifully, a transit urbanist YouTube channel, and you had no idea that I even did medicine to begin with. Hi, my name is Sharon, and for most of my life, I wanted to be a doctor. I started medicine at Western Sydney University in 2019, but then at the start of my fourth year in 2023, I deferred my studies, and in June 2023, I started a civil engineering degree at UNSW. Yep, that's my story. How did we end up here? Growing up in an Asian family, medicine was always held in high esteem. In Asian culture particularly, doctors are revered and respected highly. I mean, to be fair, they're respected in normal society as well, but especially in Asian society. There's just this massive, palpable sense of prestige attached to medicine in Asian culture. On top of the prestige, medicine is objectively a high-paying job. Doctors make well above the median salary. It also has a job security that is literally unmatched. I'm pretty sure there's like no other job in the world where there's like a 0% chance of being unemployed. But if you're a doctor, like, it is impossible to be unemployed. I started at James Ruse Agricultural High School in 2014. For those of you who don't know, James Ruse is a selective school, and for that matter, they're the top school in New South Wales. They consistently get like the best ATAR every year. So as you can imagine, a school like that breeds competition. Here's a story. When we were asked to choose between three languages, Latin, Japanese, and French, to learn when we were in year 8, more than like half the Ruse grade chose Latin. And do you want to know why that was? It was because we'd heard that Latin would help us understand medical terminology when we were doctors. We were only 13 and we were already choosing subjects based on our future career as doctors. At Ruse, I'd estimate about 40% of every cohort goes into medicine. That is a really high number. Yes, obviously, you know, there's like matters of like inequity, like the fact that one school has so many students doing med, but you know, that's not the aim of this video. And on top of that, the aim of this video isn't to be, you know, criticizing med. I'm not out here trying to say, don't do med, don't do med. That is not my aim, I promise. But yeah, back to my point. A lot of Ruse students do med. I think, you know, obviously partly because we're mostly Asian, like, you know, not exactly a secret, most Ruse students are Asian, but also I think it's just because of how competitive it is to make med. The median ATAR to make med at UNSW, get this, it's 99.45. That is an outrageously high ATAR. Selective students get high ATARs, so we just tend to prefer high ATAR degrees like med. So anyways, I wanted to become a doctor for most of my life. Ever since I was like 5, you know, my parents would talk about becoming a doctor. My grandparents would tell me about how amazing it would be, you know, to be a doctor. You know, because of that and because I went to Ruse and a bunch of other factors, you know, that was my dream for a long time. I wanted to become a doctor. But wait a second. Don't I have a transport urbanism YouTube channel? Yeah, all of this is not stuff that I only just became fascinated by yesterday. I have been obsessed with transport my entire life. That is not an exaggeration. Anyone who knows me knows that I've just been defined by my love of roads since basically the age of 8. I'm like literally not joking right now. I memorized basically the entire Sydney and New South Wales highway network by the time I was 12 or so. The B88, that's Picton Road, that's down south. The A41, that's the Olympic Highway and part of the Midwestern Highway. B64 is also the Midwestern Highway. What else? There's the B91 is the Summerland Way. And when I was younger, and honestly, even now sometimes, I just spend hours and hours reading about old state routes on Ausroads, or I'd go on the WestConnex website, like back when they were still building that, and I'd read about, you know, the project updates, or I'd scroll around on Google Maps, look around on Street View. My love for trains and public transport came much later, but once it did, oh my lord, was I obsessed. The game City Skylines had a massive amount to do with that. Just It allowed me to have an appreciation for trying to form an integrated transport network, getting to build highways with massive interchanges, getting to try and figure out how to run bus networks efficiently, trying to figure out how to space trains lines and train stations. Oh, and on top of all of that, when I was like 14, I made a website inspired by Ozroads, which I rather creatively named Roads Australia. So yeah, when I was in year 11, obviously all of these things, made me start to wonder. I should probably become a civil engineer, shouldn't I? I mean, I love highways so much. That would, if I did civil engineering, that would allow me to become a traffic engineer. But when it came to putting down uni preferences in year 12, all I put down was medicine. I didn't even consider putting down civil engineering. Honestly, it was a combination of factors. Pretty much all my close friends wanted to do medicine. I mean, as I said, it's a Ruse thing. Also, my family have always subliminally tried to encourage me, or not really subliminally, actually, it was pretty outright, I would say. I just come from a family of doctors. Like, there's quite a few doctors on my mum's side. And fun fact, my cousin is a med TikToker with like 40,000 or 45,000 followers. Like, I find that so crazy. But yeah, back to the point. Basically, I didn't really put that much thought into doing anything other than medicine. So I graduated from James Ruse in 2019 with an ATAR. I feel bad saying this. I got an ATAR of 99.8. So yeah, understandably, I was extremely proud of my ATAR at the time. And I was absolutely elated when I made it into the Doctor of Medicine program at Western Sydney University at the start of 2020. It just felt like all of my many years of hard work when I went to Ruse, finally, it felt like it had finally paid off. But then the degree actually started. My first year of uni was in 2020. So yeah, you can do the math, why don't you? It was definitely the worst year of my life. Not even a close competition. That wasn't because of med, that was due to other personal, completely COVID-related issues, but still, City Skylines was a big part of cheering me up that year. Like, it really helped me. It helped me get through the year. I remember I'd play City Skylines all day. Like, I'd spend hours and hours on my city. Back then, Pahosa, and it's this one right there. I spent hours and hours and hours on that city. I'd work on Pahosa, and then afterwards I'd have a tute, like a med tute, or I'd have to go to hospital. And I remember I would just feel weird. Like, I'd just be questioning to myself, why am I doing this? It's okay to have interests that don't align with your work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I write music, I go on hikes, I read books. I have plenty of hobbies, I think. But my love for urbanism and my love for transport and my love for city planning and for layouts and the intersection of all of that, my love for all of that is just deeper than an interest. It's an absolute passion. The years went by. I kept going through med, never really enjoying it that much, but never hating it enough to do anything about it. And in the background, my passion for urban planning and transport was only growing and growing. And it was starting to become too much for me. I had a conversation with Amy towards the start of 2022, telling her I didn't really understand why I was in medicine. That maybe, just maybe if I'd gone to a different school, I wouldn't have been so competitive and I would have just let myself do civil engineering instead. That was when Amy told me that I could start a YouTube channel to reconcile my passions. And sure enough, 5 days later, I uploaded my first video to what would later become Building Beautifully. Over the year that followed, I proceeded to upload something like 30 videos about literally everything. Me going out to train stations, me exploring the Sydney Light Rail, exploring the Western Sydney Airport, or exploring and analysing the different metro projects, going out and exploring abandoned freeway projects and abandoned railways, I ended up just finding so many topics to talk about, and it felt like I'd never run out of things to say. And my new YouTube channel just grew and grew and grew. So why was I doing medicine? It was because the notion, the idea of ever dedicating my life to something I enjoyed just somehow never crossed my mind in high school.
I think a lot of Ruse students and selective school students in general go into med for what I would say are the wrong reasons. Going into med because you don't know what else to do? Well, I want to say I do think that is actually valid to an extent. Most people don't know what they want to do right out of high school, and a lot of people who go into med uncertain do end up really enjoying it. But I do think that many uncertain high school students deciding what they want to do in uni use the wrong parameters to decide. They go into medicine because its ATAR cutoff is easily the highest of any degree, or because of the sense of prestige attached to medicine, or, worst of all, because their parents pressured them into it. I do think the culture of high-achieving schools teach us to derive satisfaction from achievement rather than genuine passion. I also think a lot of us do know what we want to do right out of high school, but because our parents don't approve, or because that career isn't that prestigious by our standards, we just go into medicine instead. Dare I say, going into medicine is the selective school version of playing it safe. And of course, I do want to say that plenty go into medicine every year because they are passionate about the human body, because they do care about people, and they do want to make a difference in their lives. Those are the right reasons. For sure, plenty don't go into it for the wrong reasons, don't get me wrong. But I would say that I did. I would say I went into medicine for the wrong reasons. For me, going into medicine was less about thinking I'd have a passion for it, and more about proving to myself that I could do medicine, proving that I could achieve the highest, most prestigious degree. Being a high-achieving student, I probably feared civil engineering wasn't good enough for me, not realizing that that wasn't true.
This fear, this dread, started to build up inside of me. There was this realization that I would spend the rest of my life as a doctor, and it was a really sad realization. I want to help people, but I want to help them in a different way. I wanted to research transport. I wanted to find out about traffic management and pedestrian infrastructure and types of rail and all of that, you know? So by probably mid last year, maybe July, I started to realize that I kind of had to switch degrees. Despite figuring it out so late, I continued to just put it off and off, you know? I'd finally figured out and yet I was still like, nah, don't worry about it. Sure enough, third year med ended and I was starting my fourth year this year, January 2023. So by this point, Building Beautifully almost had 20,000 subscribers. But all of these opportunities, they were all telling me the same one thing. I didn't belong in medicine, and I probably never did. The thing is, I was starting my fourth year out of a 5-year degree. Most of my friends who also do med told me when I told them I was considering switching that I should, don't switch, just finish it off first. And I mean, that's sound logic, but honestly, every time someone would tell me that, I'd feel pretty sad. I'd just feel trapped. And this is where I really need to give massive credits to Amy. Amy has been a massive support for me, like absolutely such a massive support through this entire journey. She was pretty much the first one to actually seriously suggest that I should leave medicine. She would tell me that my friends were wrong. I shouldn't stick it out. I should follow my heart and just pursue my dreams. And I owe her the world for that. I needed to hear that, and having her there with me just made all of it so much easier. So anyways, 2 weeks into fourth year, I was there in our pediatrics orientation. We were in the pediatrics department of Mount Druitt Hospital. I was sitting there not yet knowing that that would be my last time in a hospital as a med student. I listened to our pediatrician coordinator talking to us about pediatrics. Hearing someone talk about medicine was something I'd heard so many times before, but that time it was just different. It was just me realizing that this would be the rest of my life, and I could not accept that. So I went home that evening and straight away emailed my year coordinator that I would need to take a gap year. Then that night I told my parents that I could not do medicine anymore and that I wanted to be a civil engineer. And that was that. It was a decision I'd been building myself up to for ages, one that had felt inevitable since my childhood. I mean, I probably should have just gone into it to begin with, but I'd finally done it. I had left medicine. The months that have followed since February when I left have been tumultuous to say the least. For starters, I decided that I would defer my fourth year of medicine far too late into the year to actually start the new degree straight away. So as a result, I had a few months to myself where I was just at home, no uni, no commitments, before I would start my civil engineering degree. So that's why I uploaded so many videos between February and June. I was uploading a video like every 2 weeks, if not weekly. And it was an amazing few months for me. I really enjoyed having the chance to just throw myself into my channel for that long. I started my civil engineering degree at UNSW in June 2023, trimester 2, and I have been really enjoying it. Granted, I'm still only just at the start, but like it's been pretty good so far. I've been recognized at UNSW a few times. I feel weird saying this, but I mean, if you're probably going to do this anyway, so if you do see me at UNSW, just do feel free to say hi to me. I'm more than happy to say hi and have a chat. God, I cannot believe I actually had the guts to leave medicine, and I still can't believe that I did. I finally feel like I actually have career aspirations. I have career goals. I mean, you know, like I can finish my civil engineering degree and go into transport engineering. You know, I could actually work on the metros that I keep critiquing, or on the train networks that I keep critiquing, or on the highway projects that I keep critiquing, or, you know, helping out with these projects that I care so much about. It feels really exciting. It feels like a dream come true. So I think now I want to go through some important questions that I'm sure you'll have. Why did you even go into medicine to begin with? Medicine is held up on a pedestal. I don't hate medicine, but I do hate the way that people view it. Medicine is seen as unattainable, it's seen as otherworldly, and for those of us who manage to catch it in our grasp, it isn't to be let go of. But medicine isn't all that. I think my thoughts about medicine boil down to just one thing. If you don't enjoy medicine, it's not worth it at all. Now please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying medicine sucks. That's not at all what I'm saying. I mean, it's true of any career, like you shouldn't do it if you don't enjoy it. I think it's a pretty fair expectation that you should enjoy your job. I just feel like it needs to be said that you shouldn't do medicine unless you enjoy it. Because, you know, there's this glamour that's attached to medicine that kind of makes it seem like the pain is worth it, if you know what I mean. Parents who want their kids to be doctors only seem to see the best parts of it. They have images of doctors in fast cars, living in mansions on the harbour, earning 6 if not 7-figure salaries, saving lives, being admired and just perfect. And that's massively internalized at schools like James Ruse. But I think that one thing makes me sad about all of it though, which is that the degree that we end up choosing in uni is kind of less about what we think we'd enjoy and more about what degree we think is worthy of us. We at schools like Ruse fear wasting that 99 point whatever ATAR that we got. And so a lot of us go into high pressure degrees like med. I mean, if med is what you think you'll love, then by all means go for it. I'm not out here trying to be like, you know, med sucks. That's not what I'm trying to say. Being a doctor is a great job with great pay, great career prospect, and amazing job satisfaction. But what I am trying to say is, if you're in high school thinking of doing something you love, but you're kind of feeling pressured towards med, or you're already a med student like I was, and you just know that there's something else out there for you, if you know inside of you that you'd love it endlessly more, if you know that that's where your heart actually is, go for it. Follow your passions. Follow your gut. Follow what you love. I feel that because of how hard it is to make it into medicine, you know, it just kind of makes it harder for med students such as myself to feel like they can walk away. I'm beyond lucky that I have a 28,000 subscriber transport channel that makes my choice seem infinitely more valid. Not everyone has that. But you shouldn't need to have that. If you want to leave, you should be able to, just like any other degree. There's no shame in changing degrees. Why did you choose civil engineering instead of urban planning? Okay, I've actually been asked this a fair bit by people I've already told. Honestly, I'd say it's partly just a gut thing. My gut just tells me that civil engineering is my calling, that's where I belong, not urban planning. I know that Building Beautifully is largely meant to be a city planning channel, that I've, you know, always called it your go-to YouTube destination for all things city planning. But, you know, even then, I just kind of feel like it's always been, more of a transport channel than, an urban planning channel. I mean, I know, transport planners are a thing, but look, I'm never going to be 100% sure of my choice. I don't think I'm going to know until I dive in and actually go out into the field. But I figured, if I had to choose between civil engineering and urban planning, well, they're both 4-year degrees, but civil engineering, based on my research and based on talking to engineers, it's a bit more versatile when it comes to getting a job. It's easier to transfer urban planning skills to a civil engineer than it is to transfer civil engineering skills to an urban planner. But most importantly, it doesn't feel like my choice is permanent because, if I do decide down the track, actually, civil engineering isn't for me, I should do urban planning. Well, what I can do is just add a master's to my degree, just do a 2-year master's in urban planning. That's not really something I could have done in medicine. There was really no way for me to be a doctor and yet participate in transport. Last time I checked, the Sydney Metro doesn't have doctors on standby waiting to perform CPR. I also wanted to touch on the culture of hospitals. It's just something I didn't really like about medicine. Everything in medicine is so intrinsically hierarchical. It's honestly kind of toxic. Basically in medicine, there's a pyramid. At the top are the consultants, then you have the registrars, then you have the residents, then you have the interns, and then the med students who are so low they aren't even appearing on the screen. And for some reason that I still don't understand, there's very little hierarchical respect, inter-hierarchical respect. I do want to qualify that this is not always the case, and in fact, quite often it isn't, which is really good. And I was on plenty of teams last year where, there was good rapport between levels of hierarchy. But from my experience, that's not the case too often. Some senior doctors just get off on power tripping, on just belittling you, on just making you feel small. And I know that's possible in all fields, it's not unique to medicine, but the culture of bullying in medicine is quite renowned. I mean, bullying in medicine is literally its own entire wiki page. I think it's just a never-ending cycle. These senior doctors were screamed at when they were students and junior doctors, and so they probably just feel justified in continuing the cycle. Last year, myself and a partner of mine were absolutely screamed at by a surgical consultant who honestly should not have shouted at us. I mean, we hadn't even done anything wrong. It was just a misunderstanding. But he didn't even ask for our side of the story. He just completely lost it at us. And he clearly just felt completely okay with doing that because this is just way too normalized in hospitals. I do wish that the culture would change. That's my point. Why didn't you finish medicine first? You were already 3 years in. I mean, you only had 2 years left to go. Look, I kind of already addressed this. I was way too depressed to keep going. That alone should be enough of a reason. That's what I think. I don't think anyone should force themselves to do something if they're depressed about it. But in case you do want another reason, once you finish your med degree, you have to keep in mind that you still have to do a 2-year internship in order to actually officially finish your training and become a registered doctor under the Commonwealth or whatever. So really, I didn't have 2 years left. I had 4 years left. Once you factor that in, that's more years than I'd already invested. I didn't want to fall into the trap of just holding on just a bit longer, just a bit longer and then you'll be done. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I knew I had to leave ASAP. For med students watching, I just want you to just for 1 second imagine that Armando Hazudungan, who's a famous medical YouTuber, imagine for 1 moment that he did civil engineering. It doesn't make any sense, right? That literally makes no sense. That's what it felt like for me, being a transit YouTuber to be doing medicine. I just couldn't keep it up. I really couldn't. So, before I finish up, I have so many people to thank. My parents have been really supportive. Honestly, they were extremely worried at first, and I can understand that. I mean, they're my parents, of course they want the best for me. But I think they realized that I knew what I was doing, and I'm really happy that they've slowly come around. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. I'd also like to thank my friends. Of course, at first they wanted me to stick it out, but when I told them, no, I can't stick it out, they were really supportive, and they've continued to be so supportive. And I really appreciate that. So massive thank you to you guys. Last, but absolutely definitely not least, Amy. Amy has helped me so much these past few months making my transition, and I owe her the world. This hasn't been easy for either of us. Amy is in my year of med at WSU, so adjusting to one of us no longer being there has been really tough on us. But she's been such a massive support getting me through this, and just making me brave enough to make this big leap of mine. Often I think to myself that I wish I'd just never done med. I mean, I just wish to myself I'd just gone straight into civil engineering right out of high school. But then I never would have met Amy. See, we actually met on a GP placement in our second year. If it hadn't been for that GP placement, we never would have crossed paths. We never would have gotten together, and I cannot imagine my life without Amy. We've been dating for nearly 2 years now, and I hope that we're still together for many, many years to come. So that's that. That's my story of leaving med. If you're in a similar situation to me, thinking of leaving med but you're not sure, please, feel free to reach out to me. If I could do, anything again, I'd probably do it all the same. Everything that's happened has been for a reason. I don't think I would have made building beautifully were it not for my decision to do medicine instead of civil engineering. I mean, a big part of why I started this YouTube channel was specifically because I wanted an outlet for my passion and love for transport. And, I never would have met Amy had I gone into civil engineering straight away. It kind of sometimes feels like everything happens for a reason. And now I'm starting this beautiful, exciting new chapter in my life, and I am so excited. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.